Welcome to the Digital Festival.
This is our digital story.
Interior design is often confused with interior decorating. We don't just put pretty things into a space, we make a space functional and aesthetic, and it involves the layout of a space, obviously the user requirements of the space.
You design for any population, regardless of from children to adults, any type of space. Interior designers look at residential design, corporate design, hospitality, educational spaces. So it's about wide variety. Every space or building that you enter, commercial, every space that you enter would basically be designed by an interior designer most of the times. Like public spaces in hospitals or the bathrooms in a mall would be designed by an interior designer, and the materials used would be specified by an interior designer, and then you would get contractors involved who would then supply the materials that the interior designer has specified.
I think the purpose for interior design is to make a space functional and to make an experience within the space. For example, if you're going to a library or a school, you need a space that's going to encourage your learning or, just influence how you feel within the space.
It's on a psychological level almost. Like you wouldn't realize it has an effect on you. You'd enter a room and we can function on like the basics and bare minimum, but as soon as you improve a space or make it aesthetically appealing, it's like psychologically, subconsciously, it does influence one's action or behavior within the space.
We use a variety of different programs, so we have AutoCAD, Revit, SketchUp, Photoshop, 3ds Max. For a client, they want to see something that looks good. So by giving them sort of 3D models of the space or beautiful sketches and that sort of thing, it sort of sells the design. Whereas 2D drawings are for shop fitters and contractors. And with 3D modeling, you can get a photorealistic perspective of a space. So you can physically see exactly how something will look before it's been built.
Even with SketchUp, you get the function where you can create an HTML file, which you then forward to your clients, and they can go into that link, and then they can physically rotate the 3D inside the interior. They can rotate it and look at what you've designed. So what makes working digitally and 3D modeling so wonderful is the fact that all these programs basically interlink with each other. You can build in one, do something in one program, and then you can edit it in another program.
So with what we do, there's a whole professional team, and something as simple as Dropbox, we can take that one sort of master drawing and put it onto Dropbox, and everyone can extract from it what they need and put their expertise forward. So it all comes together in real time.
Okay, so in everyday practice, we would use digital processes. For example, for surveying, you would use your phone or your camera to take pictures of the sites of the building you're taking a survey of, and then these days you get electronic or laser measure tape. So you don't use a physical tape measure that you have to pull out, and that's never long enough. You simply have a little machine that you press a button with a laser, and it measures from one wall to another. Because in the built industry, there's no room for making mistakes, because it can be very costly. This electronic tape measure basically eliminates that human error, because it measures very accurately. And it's amazing how technology then at the same time also saves us time and make the whole process of surveying a space and measuring up a space so much quicker.
So some suppliers, you can go to their website, and if you're specifying a piece of furniture, they will often have the specifications as well as the digital drawings for it, which again is a time saver. So for example, the B chair by Jarman, if you specified that chair, you could possibly get 2D drawings of the chair, which would save time when it comes to drawing up the chair. So another digital medium which we would use is Pinterest. It allows us to access thousands of images within seconds, and we can put together boards to create mood boards which convey our look and feel to the clients.
So internet connection forms a big part of mobility for us as interior designers. You're not limited to sitting in an office and work or to wait to get to your office to do your work. You can work on site, wherever that is. You can sit and get works done, draw drawings, and record things that need to be recorded.
So that would allow for me to collaborate with someone abroad and do drawings for them from South Africa. One thing which I really enjoy is my bamboo Wacom tablet, which allows me to draw on my computer instead of lugging around a toolbox or drawing kit.
So in terms of research, you can use a Kindle to download documents or books instantly instead of waiting for them to be shipped to South Africa.
My research looked into biophilic design and the benefits of biophilic design used in a wellness centre on the occupants. Biophilic design looks into human-nature connection within the built environment, and it's not necessarily just putting a pot plant in a room. It's more about the human-nature interaction, so views and natural colours, using natural textures and natural shapes and forms. So this year I'm designing a wellness centre, and what a wellness centre is a space where someone can go. It's not necessarily someone who's sick, but it's just someone who needs a time out to get back to their roots and rediscover themselves. A wellness centre generally has a few different spaces. Often there's a health hydro, there's treatment rooms, there's sometimes even psychologists. There's pretty much a variety of things which people can do to benefit their health and well-being. The site that I've chosen is Trevian, and it's in Ballet. The site is over 1 hectare and it's surrounded by trees. It's a late Victorian building built in 1882, which makes it the perfect spot. The research guiding me on how to bring the natural feel inside, I looked at many things such as colour, lighting, views, shapes, lines, water features, ergonomics, space planning, and many more. What I love about my design is the concept, which is essentially creating balance and harmony between human nature and the built environment. So I've looked at late Victorian versus modernism, light and shadow, as well as natural textures, which have all come from the biophilic elements. I feel that any designer should design bearing in mind nature as well as the context of the environment.
So for my Btech fourth year interior design project, I chose the topic Designing for the Senses, Interior Design's Role in Encouraging Early Childhood Development in Remedial Schools. So I looked at early childhood, which is from ages 3 to 5, and the physical needs, emotional needs of these learners, and then how interior design can assist with these needs. A very common thing amongst these learners are sensory processing disorders. So through the research, I basically looked at how design can be used to create multisensory environments that can stimulate these learners and provide for their physical and emotional needs. And basically just creating a set of guidelines, interior guidelines to then create the space. So what makes a remedial school different to a mainstream school is that these learners are sensory seeking or sensory sensitive, so they either seek more sensory stimulation or they would want less sensory stimulation. So the challenge is to basically incorporate an environment that can both stimulate but also is like a neutral environment for learners that wants less stimulation. An occupational therapist I spoke to explained to me that remedial learners, or every person, don't only have 5 human senses, but 7 human senses, and the 2 that we don't know of that much are the 2 that most affect these learners, which is vestibular and proprioceptive senses. So your vestibular sense would be your body's position in relation to gravity, where vestibular is your body's limbs in relation to each other. So to provide for proprioceptive and vestibular senses in the learning environment, I've included slides, tunnels, swings, jumping, trampolines, which all accommodate and stimulate those senses. Okay, the site I've chosen is the Golden Hours Training Centre in Durban North, designed by Tron Architects. They specialised in designing schools for mentally handicapped persons. My research dictated that I find a space that had the qualities that this site provided, such as open courtyards between the classroom, which serves as an extension to the classroom, the lower ceilings and the walkways, which provides a feeling of comfort and closure, which is something that these learners really do enjoy and need. Just the setup and the structure of the spaces, which provides rhythm and continuous rhythm and familiarity. Like each building is built in the same way with windows in the same place, which provides consistency for these learners. So I've designed 4 different spaces that each have their own function. So I've looked at the learning environment, which is a classroom, and this classroom is designed based on the principle of play, as that is the main way in which a learner would learn at that age. Then there's a library where there's fantasy play, technological equipment for learning, and then also reading, and all with a playful aspect to it. Then there's also the domestic science lab, which is where food are prepared for the learners to eat, but also where they can engage and learn and develop motor skills by helping to prepare the food that they're going to enjoy. And then lastly, there's the sensory room, which serves as a therapy room. This is where learners go when they get overstimulated and they need a time-out time. So they'll be sent to this room for about 20 minutes to regulate themselves. A very simplistic room with padded floors and walls, and with a lot of different colors of lighting, LED, fiber optics, movement, color projectors moving around the room, which to these learners are very stimulating. Being sent to this sensory room is not a form of punishment, but more of a reward, as learners do enjoy being in this space, as it calms them, and it's a playful, interactive site where you have floor finishes change color as you walk, and you play with lights, and these learners are in control of the space. They basically have a remote control, and they can change colors or shapes or forms and the movement of the things.